guys, and welcome back to Stylish Naija YouTube channel. I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers. I appreciate you guys a lot for subscribing to my channel, watching my videos, and then sharing them. I do. So today I'm going to be showing you how to cut and sew this 3-layer gown. So that's just what I'm going to knit it. It's just like a tiered dress, 3-layer and dress. So I came across it and I liked it, so I decided to do a tutorial on it, and then with the fancy sleeves. So I'm going to be showing you all that so as we go along. So, and I have my fabric here. I'm going to be making use of African print, so any print can do, and then you could use any fabric of your choice. You could use it to make this dress, like a crepe. Yeah, you could make use of, you can make use of a crepe, and then any English and fabric or a sample material. Okay, so registration for my corset class is actually still ongoing. So if you're interested, you could still register for that class, and then the intermediate class also. So to start, so I folded my fabrics. So you are going to use the biggest part of your measurement to fold, and then you add about 5 inches allowance to it. So for instance, if your bust is 40 inches, you divide into 4, which is 10, and then you add 5 inches, so you fold at 15 inches. But because this dress, it has buttons at the front and pattern, we're going to increase it by 2 inches. So this fabric I'm making use of is actually a patterned fabric, so you could see. So I'm going to use this part as my 2 inches. So I'm going to be making use of my bodice and sloper to cut out that's the top of my bodice. So I'm going to drop a link, like I normally say, that you need body sloper is something that anybody, if you are making dresses, you actually need a body sloper, because it actually helps. So I'm going to drop the link down so you watch it and then you know how to do. You don't have to, every time you want to sew, you don't have to start and going through all the process. So once you have a sloper like this, you just place and then you cut, and then you're good to go. So I'm going to, because of the 2 inches extension, so I'm just going to shift it like this, and then this is going to be my allowance for my buttons. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to measure my half and bodice. That's where I'm going to be cutting it. So I'm going to use the savage point as my shoulder allowance. So I'm going to be cutting, I'm actually going to cut it at 17 inches. So this is 17 inches, which is my waistline measurement. So I'm going to use it. So I'm going to cut now. This is the front. I'll cut the back. So this is the back, and then this is the front. So I'm going to cut out the neckline now for this. So for the neckline, I'm just going to measure from this point. So I'll put the back on the front, so to make it easier, so you understand. You know that this is the extra one for the front. So I'm just going to place it like this. And then I'm going to measure, because I want to get the measurement accurately. That is why I decided to put so I'm going to measure about 3 inches. So this is my 3 inches. I found that the other chalk I was making use of is not very visible. So this is 3 inches, and then the depth that I'm going to use, because I'm going to be putting a high collar, I'm making use of 1.5 inches. So I'm just going to curve it like this. Okay, so I'm going to cut it out now. So this is the extra inch for the front neckline. That's the collar that we're going to place on top. We are done for this. So I'm going to open the front piece. So this is the front piece. And then this point where the collar is going to be, I'm going to notch it, so I will know. That's the flap for the buttons, or rather. So I'm just going to notch it like that from the top and from the down. I'll notch it, and then I'm going to insert my dart now. So for the dart, I'm going to use half of my bust span measurement. So I'm measuring from the back, which is 4. I'll use 4.5. So I'm just going to do a regular and waist dart. So I'm just going to notch it now at this point. So when I'm stitching, I'll just stitch along. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to cut out my lining for the top part of my bodice. So if you want to use interfacing, you could use interfacing. So for this part, I'm going to interface it. So I'm going to use my fabric. So for my front piece, I'm going to cut out facing that I'm going to use for this bottom part, because I want this part, I actually want it to be like this. I want it to be on the front like this. That's this part. So because I don't want, and this part, when I'm putting lining, the lining that I'm going to be making use of, this brown lining, I don't want it to show that way. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut out another strap that I'm going to stitch. I'll just sew and then turn. So I'm just going to put it like this, and then I'll place it like this from the neckline point, and then I'll just cut it out. So this is going to interface for my front and neckline. So that is that. So I'm going to take it to my machine now, and then I'll stitch. So in stitching, I'm just going to stitch like this. So I'm just going to show you how to stitch. I'm going to stitch it like this. So I'll take this piece now. I'm going to stitch it like this. We'll see what I have. I'm just going to stitch it along the neckline like this, and then like this. Then I'll turn it in, and then I'm going to have this part secured, ready for my button. And then I'll stitch the both sides and then the back also. So if you don't want to line it, you can decide to just undo it, and then I'll hold the darts together, and then I'll join them on the side, and then bring it back to cut out the collar before we continue with the flare that we're going to use for the down part of our dress. Okay, so I finished joining the dress. That's the top part of the bodice. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to measure out the body measurement. So this is the front, and then this is the back. So I'm going to measure from the back. So I'm just going to measure from the bust side. I'm going to measure this part. So my bust is 36 inches, which is 18. So I'm just going to place my tape like this, and then I'm going to mark this point like this. So the next thing I'm going to do now, measure the waist and line measurement. So for the waistline, I'm going to make use of 32, which is 16. When you divide into 2, 16. So I'm just going to join it like this together, and then like this. So the next thing now, I'll take it to my machine now. I'm going to stitch it like this. So when I come back, I'll show you how to cut out the collar for the front, and then we'll cut out the flare that we're going to use for the 3 layers. Okay, so I finished joining my body. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I want to measure out the neckline. So for me to, in order for me to cut the collar, so in measuring, so this point I just used a stitch to secure it down. So I'm just going to open it like this, and then I'm going to measure it round. So in measuring it round, I'm going to place my tape like this, and then I'll measure round what I have. That is what I'm going to use to cut out my round collar. So I have 18 inches here. That is what I'm going to make use of. And then I have 9 inches. So when you divide 18 into 2, you have 9 inches. This is 9 inches. I'm just going to add 1 inch allowance to it, which I'm going to use to curve it. So this is like my straight line. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to measure out the length of my collar. That's the width. So I'm going to make use of about 2 inches. So I'm going to cut, before I cut it out, I'm going to curve the edge of my collar, because I don't want my collar standing straight like this. So I'm just going to curve it. Then this down part also, I'm going to curve it also. So before then, I'm just going to come like this. So this is my actual measurement. So I'm going to curve it. I'll come in by half an inch from this point. So I have it marked out really clean. So you could decide to do any shape. So I'm going to cut it out now. So the next thing I'm going to do now, before I fix it to my fabric, I'm going to open it up and then trace and down. So I'm going to create this curve on it, but I'm just going to leave it on the side and then cut out the flare first before I continue with this. So in cutting my flare, I'm going to use the full length of the dress to cut out the flares, because I'm cutting 3 layers of flare. So the full length of my dress is actually 42 inches plus allowance included. So I'm making use of 42 inches. It's actually 40 plus 2 inches allowance for stitching. So this top part of my bodice is actually 15 inches. So I measured it at 15 inches. So what you are going to do, the full length, which is 42 inches, you are going to minus this 15 inches from it. So when you minus this 15 inches from it, I'm going to have 27 inches. So the 27 inches, that's what I will use for the down part, which is the skirt. In making dresses like this, it's called the skirt part. So I have 27 inches. So since I'm making 3 layers, I will divide that 27 into 3 layers, into 3s. So when you divide 27 into 3, I'm going to have 9 inches. So the purple I'm going to cut out is going to be 9 inches apart. The first one I'm going to cut out is going to be 9 inches. The second one is going to be 16 inches. And then the third one is going to be 27 inches. So the full length of what I need now to add to this top is actually 27 inches, like I said. So I'm going to measure it out now and cut it. So it's really simple and easy. So I'll fold my fabrics into 4. That's for the first one that I'm going to cut out. I'm just going to fold my fabrics like this. So you could decide, if you don't want to waste your peplum, your fabric, you could decide to measure. What I actually want is 9 inches. So I'm going to fold it like this, and then I'll use my waist measurement. That's this part. That is going to be the waist of the 3 peplum. That's the circumference. So for this part, I'm going to be making use of 32 inches, like I said initially. So I'm going to be making use of 32 inches. So you see it. So that is what I'm going to be using. Then plus, this is 32 inches. Remember I added 2 inches allowance because of the zip, because of the buttons. So the first one, I'm going to add 2 inches to the first one, because the button is going to be extending into it a little bit, so you'll be able to put it on. So I'm going to use 18 inches for the radius. Okay, so I'm going to use 5.5 for my radius height. So I'm just going to measure it round like this. So like I said, this first one, the button is going to go into it. So because of that, I'm going to be cutting it a little bit wider, because I'm going to add an extra of 2 inches. So like I said, so I'm going to measure out the length now. So I'm going to cut it out now, and then I'll use this to cut out the other ones. So I'll cut like this. So this is what I'm going to use now. I'm just trimming. So when I open up this parts now, I'm still going to have enough allowance for my buttons. So I'm going to cut out the second one. So the second one that I'm going to cut out now is going to be 16 inches. The second one is going to be 16 inches. Okay, so I'm going to take this first one like this, and then I'll place it on top of. So I've placed the first one on it like this. So it's placed and properly. So you are going to measure from this point, because the waist, that's the radius, is going to be the same. I'm just going to measure my 16 inches like this. So I've cut out the second one. So you see the way it sits on it. So I'm going to cut out the waist like this. So this is the second one. So I'm going to cut out the third one. I'm going to cut out the third layer now. Okay, so for the third layer, so this is the second one. So for the third one, because of the length of the Ankara, it will not be enough. I won't be able to get straight 27 inches. So I'm going to be cutting it I'm not going to cut 360. I'm going to cut 180-degree flare. That's, I'm going to cut 2 and then join them together. So you see the way I folded my fabric now, it's an angle. So in order for me to get out the length, so what I'm just going to do now, I'm going to take and this first one, so you could decide to place all of them together also, but I'm just going to use the small one. So I'm just going to look for where the waist is going to sit properly, and then I'm going to place like this. So what I'm going to do now, measure out at 27 inches. That's the length, and I'm going to measure out. So from this point like this, I'm just going to mark. This is my 27 inches. I'm going to add half an inch to the side that I'm going to use to stitch to join them together. So I'm going to cut it out now. So this is the third one. So I'm going to cut out another one like this, and then to make it full. So at the end of the day, so this is going to be the length of my gown. The other ones are going to be on top. This is the longest part. The other ones are going to be on top. So I'm going to cut out another one like this. I've placed this on it, so I'm going to cut out now. So I've cut out my 3 flay now together. That's the tiered and flay. So you see them. And then this is the smaller one. So I'm just going to open, and this one on the side like this, I'm going to open it. So I'm going to choose where I'm going to open it from. You know, I added extra 2 inches to it. So I've opened it up. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm just going to sew. I'm going to interface on this part. So I'm going to cut like an interfacing like this, just like the way I did for the front and piece. So I'm going to open this up for you to see, just the way I did for the front piece, just to like a facing. So I'm going to do the same thing to this part, so the edge of this first peplum. So I'm just going to cut out an interface like this, just to stitch on this part, and then it's going to come like this. I'll place it like this. So you could decide to do any inch of your choice. So it's going, you see, it's going to be like this, and then you're going to stitch. So I'm just trying to level it out. So I'm going to interface on the edge like this, because of so that I will be able to fix on the buttons. So I'm going to, the next thing I'm going to do now, I'll cut out the second one, and then I'll show you how to cut out the sleeves. Okay, so welcome back, guys. So you could see I finished coupling it. So this was just what I did, like I said before. So I just joined the 3 layers together on the waistline. That is, I put the 3 of them together and then joined it, and then I connected. This the up one. So like the up one, I opened it in front like I explained to you, and then used an interfacing just to interface it. But I connected all of them the same. So you see they were connected the same. So and then I now connected it to, I just connected it to the waistline of the top part of the body. So this is how it's going to be now. So when I after everything, after fixing my collar, it's going to be like this. So it's just going to stay like this, and then I'm going to put my buttons here. So once I put my buttons, so I'm just going to once a button is here, you just clip it like this, and then I'll put my buttons like this. And then for this down part, you can decide not to put buttons, or you can decide just to put buttons also for fancy. So for this down part, I'm just going to put the buttons. I'm just going to add maybe about 2 buttons also for the down part, so just to add the fancy to it. So that's just basically how this was done. So for the neckline, so the collar, so I've ironed and soft and gum on this. So you could decide to use hard stay, depends on what you want, but I'm going to use a soft one because my fabric is not very stiff. So I've used this to cut it out. I'm just going to place it on it and cut it out. And then the next thing I'm going to cut out, now I'm going to cut out the sleeve. So for the sleeve, I'm going to cut it out in such a way that I'm going to open the sleeve at the center. This is my basic sleeve pattern. This point is going to be open for the type of sleeve. So I've already cut them out here. So this is the sleeve. So but it is open. So let me just keep the dress on the side so I could do this explanation properly. So these are the sleeves. So I used my pattern to cut it out. So this is just the basic sleeve. I'll drop the link in case you don't know how to do this. I'll drop the link. So this is the sleeve now. So it is going to be opened like this. So the next thing I'm going to do now, because this kind of sleeve, if you are going to line it, I'm going to actually use a lining for mine. So I'm going to cut out the lining. Also, the lining is going to be exactly the same. So this is the full sleeve. So it was opened here. So when I'm cutting your sleeve, make sure you add extra allowance of about 1 inch to it, because to create a room for this opening and then the closing, add about 1 inch extra to your armhole and measurement. So I'm just going to put this on the side. So I'm going to cut the lining out now. I'm going to cut the lining, and then you are going to choose what kind of strap you are going to use. You could decide to make Ankara straps. So if you want to make use of your Ankara straps, you could decide to make use of Ankara strap. You just fold and then you bend and then just make a long strap that we're going to use. Or you could decide to make use of bias. So you choose any, or you could decide to make use of anything you want to make use of. So I'm just going to do that now. Okay, so for the sleeve now, if you want to line it, because in lining this kind of sleeve, you have to, it's a little bit tricky. So I'm just going to show you how to do it. It will be easy for you. So I have my sleeve, both of them, that's the 4-piece put together. So now you are going to determine where you are going to attach your straps to. So I'm going to use 3 inches mark. That's mine. The first one is going to start. Okay, I'm going to use from the top, I'm going to use 2 inches for the first one. So this is the first one. I'm going to put notches. I don't want my straps, I don't want them to be that much. So this is going to be the second one. I'm using 3 inches apart. 3 inches, 3 inches, and then the third one 3 inches. So what I'm simply going to do now, I'm going to create and I'm going to make notches here. I'm just going to notch them, because when I'm turning with my lining, I want to open this part. I'm going to leave this part. I'm not going to seal them. That's why I'm going to pass my strap through. So I've created the notches now. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to take my lining. So it's cut into 4 also. I'm going to take my lining. I'm going to take it onto my machine and I'm going to stitch them 1 piece at a time. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn just the regular way you turn your lining. I'm going to stitch here like this and then turn it. So I'll stitch straight like this and then turn my lining. So this part, this edge, open end of my lining, I'm going to leave. I'm going to stitch to this point. I'll leave this place. I'll stitch this point, just tiny. So I could decide to cut. So I'm going to stitch this point, and then the notch part, I'm just going to leave about 1 inch and point, which I'm going to pass my straps through. So at the end of the day, I'm going to just push them in from this point. So the strap that I'm going to be cutting, I'm going to cut about I'm just going to cut about 3 to 4 inches straps. I'm going to take them to my machine like this, and I'm going to cross them and then stitch, just do a little tiny top stitch here. So you could decide to use your hand needle to stitch them. So with this now, it will be easy for you to control, to just stuff them in. So I'm just going to go and do that and come back and show you. Okay, so you see I finished stitching this one. So I'm just going to put it on the side and then I'll show you how I did it. So, and this is it. So you're just going to, so you see them, they are crossed together. So you're just going to pass it through and then you stitch it from the inside. So you can decide to do it this way, or you can just decide to place them like this straight on top and then stitch on the line. So you see how it is. So you when you are done, so from the inside like this, you just run a stitch along that line. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the rest and then finish up and connect the collar to it, and then I'll put it on the mannequin for you to see the final look of this dress. Okay guys, so you could see this is the final look of our three and layered and gown with our fancy sleeve. So this is the sleeve. So you could see, so I'm going to add a button to and the neckline here, that's the collar, and then I'll add another button here and then here. But this side like this, I'm going to leave this parts. I'm not going to add any buttons, but you can decide to add buttons to yours. So it depends on, actually depends on what you want. But my button is going to stop here. I'm just going to leave this part like this. So guys, so you could see the layers. So you could see. So guys, if you actually like what I did with this video, please do not hesitate to hit on the like button. So if you have not subscribed to my channel already, I would appreciate if you would do that. Subscribe to my channel, so, and share this video with your friends and your soulmates. So thank you so much guys. I'll see you in my next video.